Okay, so here is the proof. All right, so it's okay if you got just a couple of these. If yours are a little off, it's brand new. So if you looked at it and you were also a little bit, had really no idea what to do, just kind of looking and thinking about it really is the starting point to getting used to these types of problems. So you can see here that we have the first two. The first two reasons are our given. So we have our given statements here, and then we have our given reasons. Okay, so those, of course, are the easiest to write. If you ended up having like these two switch, so if you had D as the midpoint of BE was given, that's also fine as well. It doesn't change too much. So kind of let's look at what was different and what you had to think about and figure out on your own. So this corresponding angles. So more than likely you maybe came up with that, maybe you didn't. So when you're given information such as AB is parallel to CD, so that should be your first clue that maybe you're going to be using one of these reasons. So if you go look, remember a reference sheet, you always want to be using this. If we are dealing with parallel lines, we're probably going to be using one of these reasons for our angles. Okay, so in this case, it was corresponding angles. So do you remember what corresponding angles are? Maybe you don't. So if you have these two lines are parallel, okay, so imagine these extending, and then you have these two angles here. They're in the same position on those two parallel lines. So they're in the same position, so they're corresponding angles, and corresponding angles are congruent. So more than likely, maybe you didn't know that. That's okay. So we're introducing that now. That's something that we can use in our proof. So we can use corresponding angles to say that angle ABD is congruent to angle DE, angle CDE. Okay, so you have those two angles, you have the side, and then the other thing we're given, so maybe you put this before, but D is the midpoint of BE that was given, which then means, by the definition of midpoint, that BD is congruent to DE. So we can say that here, definition of midpoint. And then once we get all of that, we can then prove by side angle side. So you have a side, you have an angle, you have a side, and you can prove that they are congruent. So that's a whole proof start to finish using side angle side. So take a moment and you can copy that down. Correct any of yours that are different. It's completely fine if you obviously did not get all of these statements and reasons. If you just wrote down, the given part, that's perfect. You're getting started. And then if you felt a little bit lost, that's fine. Look at this proof, think about it, think about what we figured out, and then try again for another one. These are going to take a lot of practice to really get used to, figuring out how to prove these triangles are congruent. So take a moment, pause if you need to get all of those copied down. And I'm going to go on and show you the back page, which has three proofs on there. So if you need to pause to copy those down. And here's our last page. So the back of your paper has these three proofs. And yes, I'm going to ask you to try all three of these proofs. So take a good amount of time and see what you can get on these proofs. If you only have a couple filled in for each, because that's all you can figure out, that's fine. But figure out as much as you can. Really try to figure out what you would write for these proofs, how you would label everything, and then we'll see how you do with that.